Hello, and welcome to Come Play With Us, a spooky storytelling podcast. My name is Leila, and I'm joined by my evil twin,
Ruby. We're actually both the evil twin. We're both writers with non-writer day jobs. We believe in the power of great storytelling, so we've invited guests with the challenge of weaving a tale about real-life hauntings and paranormal activities with the sole purpose of scaring the shit out of us.
We'll rate them to see how they've done. Our ratings go a little something like this: scared shitless, some chills, and I think I'll be able to sleep tonight. Welcome back to another new episode of Come Play With Us, hosted by me and Ruby, me being Leila because we both have the same exact voice. And today we have a returning guest who you probably just recently listened to tell us about the cursed omen, set of the omen. And now I'm going to tell our friend Adam a creepy story.
Hi, I'm excited.
Good. And you're in a nice dark room.
I was just gonna say I appreciate that. I'm doing my best to darken the room.
You need to, yeah, Ruby, you need to darken your room. This one's creepy. This one creeped me out.
I have all of the blinds and everything, all the shades and everything drawn, but it's a really bright sunny day. It was like cloudy and gloomy earlier.
I know.
And now it's like a bright sunny day, so everything is like just illuminated. My room is quite dark, but I'm under the covers, so that's helpful.
I like how Adam folded the thing as if we would care what's behind you.
The dish towel, hanging off the shelf I'm in my linen closet here, so.
Okay, so I don't know where I first heard this story, but this theme of doppelgangers or doubles always creeps me out. So I think I may
even though you're a twin.
Yes. But I don't feel like you're my double, and you don't feel like I'm your double. We just feel like we're siblings, but that we share a birthday and the same voice, and some mannerisms.
And the same DNA.
And the same DNA, and sometimes we do finish each other's sentences. But
or thoughts.
Or thoughts, yeah. But I think I heard this a long time ago, maybe during the pandemic. I was listening to Laura a lot because there's just nothing else to do. And yeah, so I thought I'd bring it back to this podcast. All right, so this is called The Doppelganger, and this story is about. I actually feel like I'm in, what's that TV show, Ruby, we used to hate watch? Are You Afraid of the Dark? We're submitted to you by the Midnight Society. I call this one The Doppelganger. With the stuff and the fire.
I just want to add, we didn't hate watch it because the show was bad. We hate watched it because it wasn't scary enough to us. Because we were also kids who were watching.
Oh.
But we were hooked because we still like scary stuff.
Yeah, we were also watching
Tales from the Crypt. Yeah.
I was going to
say Tales from
the
Dark Side.
I would love watching Are You Afraid of the Dark? But yeah, even for kids, it wasn't all that intense, was it?
No, it was a solid show, so we didn't hate it for any other reason other than we just were not scared enough by it.
I always thought that was like a half step above Goosebumps in terms of quality too.
And this one took itself seriously, hence the melodrama.
Excited about The Doppelganger.
Oh yeah, okay. So this story is about Emilie Sagee, who was a French boarding school teacher in Latvia in 1845. So this story was first told from the point of view of a 13-year-old girl. She was 13 at the time. She told the story when she was older. She went to that school. She was one of 42 students who were all children of noble families. And she herself was the daughter of a baron. And she later went on to become the Baroness Julie de Guldenstube. But there are other student accounts too that I mentioned from the story, or later on in the story. So in 1845, Julie said that a new teacher was hired, and her name was Mademoiselle Emilie Sagee. She was 32 years old and from Dijon in France. It's said that she was of a northern type, which I suppose back then it meant that she was very fair in complexion, blue eyed, and her hair was chestnut colored. Even though she seemed very sweet tempered and even a little quiet, she did have some anxiousness to her personality, and sometimes she was said to even become nervously excitable. But still, she was intelligent and a very good teacher by all accounts. Within a few weeks of her arrival, the rumors began swirling. It all started one day when she was giving a lesson to the rest of the classroom. She had her back turned to the students and was writing on the blackboard. The future Baroness Julie was in that class, and when she blinked, suddenly there were two Mademoiselle Sagee side by side. Some of the young ladies in the room began stirring and gasping at the sight, and so Julie was not the only one who saw this. Both Mademoiselle Sagee were gesturing in the same way, but the creepiest part was that the second one, the double, wasn't holding any chalk, just imitating the movements of the real Mademoiselle Sagee. And just as soon as this double appeared, it just as suddenly disappeared. The girls were shaken, and some of them reported it to a few of the other teachers, but all were told that they were being ridiculous and maybe it was a brief trick of the eye or the way the sun shone in the classroom that day. Sometime later, another of Julie's classmates needed help putting on a new dress. The hooks of it were hard to do on her own. Mademoiselle Sagee offered to help, and later that day, as she set to work helping hook the student's dress, the student happened to turn to the side and look at a mirror on the wall, and in the reflection, she spotted two Mademoiselle Sagee side by side helping her. One was fastening her dress, but the other was just beside her making the same movements. But when she looked away from the mirror and turned back, only one was helping her. She immediately fainted. Not long after, Mademoiselle Sagee became ill, and because she was a beloved teacher, one of the students offered to read to her at her bedside table to help her feel better. So the student went and visited her at night, and while Mademoiselle Sagee lay in bed, her spirits rose and she was really grateful for the student's company. But then she began to become weak and dazed and even a little incoherent. The student noticed that her teacher's body became stiff as she stared straight ahead of her as if the student wasn't there. It was then that the student noticed another Mademoiselle Sagee in the room with them, some feet away from the bed, pacing back and forth. The original Mademoiselle Sagee didn't even notice the other one, and in fact, never seemed to notice there was a double or doppelganger close by whenever the other students spotted it. So that student closed the book and immediately left the room, terrified. It was not a trick of the eye. That excuse just wasn't holding. There was clearly something wrong and something strange going on with Mademoiselle Sagee. The girls began to talk and started sharing their own sightings and stories with one another about this now known phenomenon with their teacher. Over the next few months, more sightings were recorded. The double would sometimes be seen hovering behind her chair at dinner, mimicking her eating movements, or even if Mademoiselle Sagee got up from her chair to write on the blackboard, the double would remain sitting. The last straw came when the students were gathered in a large hall to work on their embroidery. This was on the ground floor of the building, so they were able to look out of the large windows to the garden outside. They watched Mademoiselle Sagee in the garden, which was one of her favorite spots, and she looked so peaceful and calm as she walked through gathering flowers. They watched her pick them one by one, place them in a basket, and it became distracting. It was distracting them from their embroidery. The teacher that was with them had to step out for a bit, so she left them. And then moments later, the door opened and Mademoiselle Sagee came in to take that teacher's place. How did she leave the garden so quickly, drop her flowers in her room, and then come to take the place of this other teacher? Well, when they glanced back to the garden, there she was, still picking her flowers. She had never left. But there was something off about her. She moved very slowly, like she was drowsy or exhausted. She had even stopped picking the flowers. She just moved sluggishly through the garden in a daze. The Mademoiselle Sagee that had taken the other teacher's seat, however, sat there very still and quiet. So, like I said, by now, the students had been talking about this, and rumors about this had spread amongst all of them. They all knew something strange was going on. Two of them felt brave enough in that moment to investigate who this other person or double was. So they decided they were going to see which Mademoiselle Sagee was the real one and which one was a double. Surely the real one would display some sort of humanity and authenticity, and the decoy probably shows some wrongness, some lack of earthly attachment. So they got up and approached the second Mademoiselle Sagee. The closer they got, the more translucent this other figure appeared to be. When they reached out and touched her arm, they felt only a little bit of resistance. There was just a little give when they felt her, like they were touching really fine, soft muslin cloth. Still, the figure sat motionless, staring straight ahead, and didn't look at them, acknowledge them, or even feel disturbed by them examining her. Then, slowly, the figure just disappeared. Basically evaporated like mist. Now the girls were alone, and they gasped and shrieked at the sight. They dropped their embroidery and ran to the window, crowding the sill. And there she was, Mademoiselle Sagee, still in the garden, though this time she appeared to be revived and her energy had been restored. She went back to picking flowers as if nothing had happened. By now, since the other teachers weren't going to listen to them, the girls began telling their parents about the strange events happening with this new French teacher. The parents started to get concerned and disturbed by hearing all this. They didn't know what to make of these stories. So over the holiday break, they started pulling their kids out of the school, and the head count went from 42 to only 12 students when the holidays were over. When word reached the head of the school and the people who ran the boarding house, whether or not they believed the stories, they were losing the support and backing of these powerful families, these lords and barons. And so they asked Mademoiselle Sagee to resign. Apparently, she appeared really sad, and then she said, "Ugh, not again. This is the 19th time this has happened. It is very, very hard to bear." I was not going to try to say that with a French accent. There was a lot of alarm to this statement, and she was asked to clarify what she meant. She said this was the 19th school she had taught at over the last 17 years. She had first started teaching when she was 16, and by now she was 33. So clearly, this was not the first time something strange was happening that was causing her to lose her job. Afterward, Mademoiselle Sagee set off to teach in Russia and was never heard from again. So, doppelgangers are known to be biologically unrelated lookalikes. We know doppelgangers exist to some extent because of the Timothée Chalamet lookalike contest that happened in Union Square. And I think he got like third place or something. And since there are 7.4 billion people on the planet, there's a 1 in 135 chance there is a single pair of doppelgangers. There's even a theory that statistically there are at least 7 people out there that have the same face. I don't think twins count. So each person can have 6 other doppelgangers, and this is because there's basically a set number of faces. I forget the amount, but there is a finite combination of facial variations in the world, so it's inevitable that some people will look like other people. And I remember this really strange week when I was in my early 20s. I was a nanny for a wealthy family that lived off Park Avenue, and I was mistaken for someone else. I was outside Park Avenue walking to their home when a stranger called out a name, and I kept walking, and then they rushed to me and they tapped on my shoulder, and I turned around and they thought I was someone else. They were saying someone else's name. And this happened twice in 1 week in the same area. They mistook me for 2 different people. It was so bizarre. Maybe my doppelgangers lived nearby, but each time I remember I was saying, no, that's not my name. My name is Leila. I'm not whatever that person's name is. They looked like they didn't believe me. Like they were so sure I was this other person or people. It was so strange, and I never forgot that. And when I was doing research for the story, it made me remember. But going back to Mademoiselle Sagee, the strangest part of this is how closely this double shadowed her, and they were never too far from one another. And how the students saw that when they were able to observe this double, basically pretending to be a real person, Mademoiselle Sagee appeared to suffer in some way, and this double itself lacked any humanity. Even creepier, when the students asked her about the incident and mentioned that they saw her outside the garden and then they saw her in the room, and if she knew that she had seen her double in the room with them while she was in the garden, she went kind of cryptic and said that there was one point while she was outside, she had glanced in to the classroom and saw that the teacher had left, and she thought to herself that she wished that the girls weren't left on their own, and if only she could go in and watch them for a while. Which would mean, in some way, whether she knew it or not, Mademoiselle Sagee was capable of bilocation, which is a psychic and mostly paranormal ability to be in two places at once. So, what was this doppelganger or double? Was it a part of her spirit that became detached, and so when it was in a different room from her, she was weaker and slower? Or was it something far more sinister that shadowed her every move and had some power over her? Or did she have the psychic ability to bilocate and actually be in two places at once? I guess the only person who could really tell us is Mademoiselle Sagee herself, but she has since been lost to history. The end.
Wow.
Creepy.
Latvia, y'all. I don't even know where that is. That's terrible. I need to brush up on my geography.
Part of Europe.
The creepiest part of Europe, apparently.
Yeah,
No,
if it's
probably
anywhere
not.
near Transylvania, then yeah.
No,
Yeah.
that's like northern Europe, up by Norway.
Yeah. Thoughts?
I've got a lot of thoughts. That's crazy. I think it's made more creepy for me that it wasn't doing something. It's like the uncanniness of just kind of acting strangely, not doing anything outright malicious, but like, what is this thing? What is it doing? Why is it here? Why can't we like interact with it? Makes it much scarier that it's not like overtly evil.
Yeah.
It's much creepier to me.
Not you, Ruby.
Yeah, I'm just like, what is the function of the doppelgangers? Like when, there's a 1 in 135 chance or something, like you said, that there's a doppelganger out there. Is it something that has like left, like that we're biolocating? Or what is the function of it? I guess I'm getting more into like the practicality of doppelganger.
Yeah, so it's interesting because people call this, they call her double a doppelganger, famously, and I chose mostly to call it a double because doppelgangers are real people and can exist apparently, but this double doesn't seem like it's a separate person unless it is a separate person and is, for whatever reason, shadowing her in a very creepy way. But doppelgangers, I feel, are flesh and blood, and then this double that kind of disappears and appears unless it's a doppelganger that can also bilocate.
Yeah, it's kind of making me think of like scary stories to tell in the dark, when it was like that mother who's like, if you're horrible to me, then I'm gonna leave and you're gonna get a new mother, and she's gonna be mean and have like a tail and glass eyes, and they're like, whatever, and then they're mean to her, and then they come home and there's no mother there, but there's like this creature with a tail and glass eyes. So I'm a little bit like, is the double like a threat? Can it be used as a threat? I guess for me, the scary part of it was sort of missing, because she wasn't like scary or evil or mean. It was creepy because she was still kind of there, but kind of not, like almost like a ghost of a living person. But I guess I think I would have been more creeped out if she was mean and scary, and they were seeing her like in their home or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It kind of made me think of Us, because have you seen Us, Adam?
Yeah.
So do you remember their doppelgangers like lived in this subterranean world, but they would physically be acting out whatever the people above ground were doing. They were like that attached, where they lived essentially the same lives as the people up there with no autonomy or freedom.
I wonder if he knew the story.
I feel like it, because the whole thing about it, like the double imitating the movements, like of eating, of helping with the dress, of writing on the blackboard.
Yeah,
I think so, probably. It seems like all horror kind of has the DNA of some kind of folktale in it.
Yeah, some sort of lore. We can do ratings now. Y'all are up for it. Okay, so just a reminder of our ratings. The least scary is I think I'll be able to sleep tonight. The medium scary is some chills. And the most scary is scared shitless. So Adam, you're our guest. I'm going to have you go first.
Okay. I think I'm somewhere in the middle, but I'm actually going to go on the side of scared shitless. Because
Yay!
This was that thing sounds so uncanny, that something that acts so far outside, what we would think of as having designs, causality, a desire is just very, very eerie to me. And so the fact that it wasn't so outright evil actually makes it much scarier to me. Much creepier.
Yeah. It's the pacing in the room, and it's the just sitting there staring at them, and like it shouldn't be there. What do you think, Ruby?
I'll be able to sleep tonight. Because I wanted a more scary double. I wanted her to be like, "Sit down, you little shits!" Like, You
wanted her to be the other mommy, or a scary mommy, or from Coraline, another Neil Gaiman.
Like, what is it? More Neil Gaiman. Other mother or something like that.
The other mommy or whatever. The other mother.
Yeah, she's like a spider or something. So I think because I do think it is creepy just how like weird and stoic it was, and yeah, like an impression of the real person, and how the real person kind of like got a little bit ill. And even like how like the doppelganger was or the double was like pacing when she was ill. But I think for me, it's just she was like angry or evil or something, or like,
or had some personality, had something creepy going on with it itself.
Yeah,
I get you.
Even
if I don't agree, I get you. We never agree with our ratings, Ruby, unless they're scared shitless. That's the only one we agree with.
Yeah,
we won't listen to reason.
No, we will not.
Yeah.
Well, I think you still average out to pretty dang creepy then.
It is creepy. Yeah. It's a creepy story, and then to know that it's like Latvia, like a long time ago. It's
in
just
the mid 1800s.
Yeah, just kind of adds to it.
To like walk into a room and see someone that you're sure you just saw a mile away, acting creepy and weird and moving slowly is like something out of a nightmare. That's nightmare logic.
Yeah. Imagine
this living nightmare.
These kids are in a boarding school. Yeah, and these kids are in a boarding school, and they're just like...
It just kind of disappears as mysteriously as it came. You don't know what it was here for, what it was doing.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate it, y'all.
Have you... I'm curious, you guys being twins, do you guys have any stories where you scared other people shitless?
No.
Pretending to be the same person, or they just mistook you as the same person?
It's really interesting. Being twins, we've never been convinced that we look that alike, or that we could be each other, because when we see each other, we just see this other person with this other personality. And again, I'll just say we do have the same voice. But other than that, I don't look at Ruby and see myself, and she doesn't look at me and see herself. But then when we look at baby pictures, we are just like, we can tell ourselves apart.
I was curious about, I was interested in your story about people that mistook you for someone else repeatedly.
It was so weird. I remember I told Ruby, I was like, One of
And
them,
Ruby, to be clear, was not living anywhere in like the
no,
neighborhood that they
no,
think they saw her.
we both lived in Bushwick in Brooklyn, and I was no, we lived in Bayside, Queens,
yeah.
and it was this long commute to this Park Avenue home, and
Okay.
yeah, one of them was this older woman, and she just was like, she was looking at me so confused, and just her smile fading, like I almost was like, am I a different person? And I'm like letting her down. And the other was just a man, but it was more like across the street. And I was like, no, my name is Leila. And he's like, no, you're so and so. And I was like, no, I'm not.
What would have been creepy is if it was the same name.
I'm gonna just revise my story. That the one of them, the one with the lady was on Park Avenue. I was on my way to work. The other one was somewhere else. I don't remember where, but I just remember being so weirded out that twice in 1 week someone thought I was someone else.
But it'd be creepy if it was the same name.
Maybe it was.
Yeah.
I just don't remember it. Yeah.
And 1 year in college, for 2 semesters, people in the dorm I lived in kept like talking to me, like, "Hey, me from the party last Saturday," and I'd be like, "I didn't go to a party last Saturday." Different people, and I'm like, and here's the thing: it was like a big building, but I never saw anybody that even kind of looked like me. But to the point where I was like, "This is like a prank where they just like pretend they know somebody."
That's so weird.
So you
what if they did
echolocated.
see you? Bilocate.
Echolocate.
Yeah, he's on a
I
bat.
don't-
He's on a
no.
bat in the darkness.
I knew it was wrong the second it came out of my mouth.
So and they were like, man, when you were at this party, you just sat there very still and you didn't drink. You just kind of stared at us.
No, I don't think so. But
And then we tried to
it was
touch
different
you,
people
you
that
felt
were
like
so
Clark.
sure we'd met. It was,
And then you disappeared into thin air.
maybe.
Yeah, that's crazy. That's crazy when that happens. It's so bizarre. The story is so bizarre. But that's it. That's the tale
Thank you for
of
the story.
the doppelganger, or what I want to call. What did they
The
say? They definitely had an ending line in Are You Afraid of the Dark? And I'm not remembering it because it was always the beginning that got us. But
yeah.
I think they would just pour water or sand into it, and then it
Call
would just be
this meeting of the Midnight Society to a close.
yeah.
Something
and
like
then
that.
they pour sand into the fire, and then they walked away, and it'd be end credits. All right. Well, thank you so much, Adam and Ruby, for listening to my tale. And to our listeners, thank you so much for tuning in. We hope that with every episode, you get more and more creeped out. And if you'd like to drop us a line, please reach out to us at podcomeplayWithUs@gmail.com. And don't forget to rate and review wherever you listen to your podcast. Thank you.